The following podcast contains explicit language and content that may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the Get Spooky podcast, where two funny dudes share paranormal stuff, true crime, and other scary things from around the world.
We're your hosts.
I'm Kevin,
I'm Andres.
and welcome to episode 106.
Yep, we're having fun, having a great time.
What's wrong?
While we're recording, I can see behind, and I can see that our cat is messing with something over there, and it's making a lot of noise. And so it distracts me when we're recording. But I'm sure that a lot of our listeners understand that have pets, that their pets are just going to do whatever their pets are going to do. I think he found probably somewhere where some cat food, like when they're eating, they're kind of messy. And I think it like rolled back and went back to the back.
Yeah.
And he's probably like digging it out because he acts like we never feed him,
Yep.
even though he's on a regular schedule. Anyways, before we get too into it, I would like to talk about our resources that we have on our Instagram. If you go to our Instagram page at Get Spooky Podcast and click on our bio, we have an All My Links link. If you follow that link, you can see some resources we have for what to do if ICE ever shows up at your place of employment, your house, while you're out on the street. We have a resource in English and a resource in Spanish. And then we also have a couple places right under that you can donate to some of the organizations that there are to help undocumented people that have been detained unlawfully by ICE. Also, a few, I believe like several links down, we still have our support Palestine links. Those are not going away. We're supporting Palestine. So just wanted to bring it up before we got too into it. But other than that, do you have anything before we jump into what we're going to talk about?
I did want to give read some of comments that people have sent us. As you guys all know, at least I do.
I don't like reading our comments.
I love reading the comments. I read everything anyone sends us. Like, if you comment on YouTube, I'll read it. If you comment on Spotify, I'll read them. But we've gotten a lot of funny, two in particular that I thought were really funny about the story that I shared of leprechauns. In elementary school, we had and I forgot what grade it was. I want to say it was like first grade or like kindergarten or something. But we went out to recess, and when we came back, the teaching assistant said, "Oh, I caught a leprechaun," and she had like a bag that would like move sometimes. And I'm thinking like, maybe she used like her other arm to like move it from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But as a child, that was traumatizing.
That's a leprechaun.
As a child, we were all shook.
He's in there and he needs to get out.
And I think when we were at on recess, the teacher had like moved all the desks and the chairs, and they're like, "Oh, look what the leprechaun did," and we're like, "Oh shoot!" So we have a comment from
Mirna
that says, and thank you for commenting. Just so you know, I read all of them. I read everything. She said, "Primos, I went to elementary school in Cicero, and I also can't remember the grade, but our teacher also did that on St. Patrick's Day. I want to say maybe second grade. Anyways, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I was mad I missed catching the little guy, and I couldn't wait to get home to tell my Mexican parents, who weren't all that amused. They gave me the ever patronizing. Oh, wow.
They knew.
And then someone else, Cole World, said, Primo, I had a similar traumatic St. Patrick's Day when a leprechaun turned my kindergarten teacher's feet green. I was scared and cried so hard. That was only one emotionally affected, one of my most traumatic core memories.
Dude,
And I'm sorry for laughing.
I'm sure that they laugh now in hindsight
Yeah.
because as a child, that is pretty scary because you're like, they can turn feet green. What else are they capable of?
Literally, as a child, you're like, the ideas are churning in your mind. Little gears in your mind are turning. It's like, oh my God, what? And that whole thing about like coming home and telling your parents, it's like, how do you explain that? Because I
Yeah.
remember having that conversation when I'd be like, oh my God, a leprechaun was at school. And they're like, ¿qué es eso? And I'm like, pues, un leprechaun? No sé. It's like, how do you explain that?
El señor del cereal. And they're like, ¿cuál cereal? And I'm like, Lucky
El
Charms.
señor de cereal.
The Lucky Charms.
El duende. And they're like, what?
It's like, they're like, what? Did you dream this? And they're like, lo soñaste? It's like, no, that happened today. I swear.
That's true.
Speaking about trauma that happens to you when you're younger, did I ever tell you that I'm like when I was little, I was super afraid of the shrink ray that made the kids small in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Oh.
I don't know why I had this irrational fear that I was gonna get turned into a little person, and then my mom was gonna accidentally squish me.
Step on you.
And I would think about, I'm like, how is she gonna take care of me? My mom's gonna be like big size, and I'm gonna be tiny, and I'm gonna die, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, why was I so traumatized by that as a kid?
I get
Why?
that. I get that.
It's like kids fear the weirdest things. I was also traumatized of sharks being in my pool.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never swim
Just
in my
Florida
pool by
things.
myself. But it was like, for any of our listeners that are from Florida, they know, but like all pools have like a covering around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it's because of like all the wildlife that can get in the pools and stuff like that. Like I don't know if they're required to, but most houses commonly have like this big like netting thing around it, like a big gazebo looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there was no way sharks were going to be in my pool, but somehow they were going to swim up the pipe like miles inland, and then they were going to be in that pool, and they were going to like eat my leg off, and then I was going to get shrunk with a shrink ray, I mean.
One thing after another.
I guess
like
yeah.
dude, you can't even rest as a child.
It's like, how are the doctors going to fix my leg if I'm tiny?
Would
How
you
are they going to sew
qualify
my
that?
leg?
There's no needle that tiny.
No.
Would you classify that as like an irrational fear as a child?
Those are irrational fears as a child.
Okay, so now that you're talking about it, I remember growing up hearing about, as a child, I was obsessed with this like encyclopedia that I found at the house that we moved in the east side, and that it was like a children's encyclopedia, but it had a lot of stuff. And I remember like reading the part about the stars and the sun, and how eventually the sun was gonna expand into a red giant and destroy like the first like, what is it,
Three
like the
planets?
first 3 or 4 planets.
Yeah.
And I remember staying up late and like stressing out about that. And that's not gonna
My
happen for like
God.
literally millions of years. But I was over here like, I can't sleep. Like I can't. What am I gonna
Yeah.
How am I
get
gonna
it.
save my mom? Yeah, that was traumatizing as a child. And then, because as a child, that's serious.
It was.
As an adult, you're like, oh,
And then if you would tell your parents, they'd be like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Just like the leprechaun thing, they'd be like, what? ¿En dónde? Ay, my mom would be like, ay, Andrés,
Yeah.
tus ocurrencias.
No, I would cry and be like, el sol va a explotar. And it's like, what? They'd just be like,
They're
huh?
like, where are you getting this from? Or my mom, that famous word my mom says, mitotero.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you myther.
I don't even think that's like a translation of mitotero. mistero, like of myth or what I'm saying is like I think there's a different origin because I think someone on TikTok talked about it.
Oh, well, to me it was just somebody that creates myths.
Un mito.
Why are you lying?
Why are you spinning fables?
It's like,
Me when I catch
why,
Aesop.
why are you writing why are you writing stories in iambic pentameter?
Like Aesop's fables.
Yes.
If I ever get Aesop, if I ever get the Brothers Grimm, me when I meet the Brothers Grimm,
For a
I'll
second,
stop. I'm sorry.
for a second, I thought you were talking about Usopp from One Piece,
From
and I'm
One
like, what the
Piece?
does he have to do with this?
No, like Aesop's fables.
Yeah, no, I know now. Like the people that make soap and perfume, Aesop.
Okay.
The
This
Japanese
is derailing. All right, we
Yes.
we
Rein it
have
back in.
to move on.
Okay, so what have we been doing since the last time we recorded? We went to go see a show,
Oh my God. So we went to go see
The Bald and the Beautiful.
and the Beautiful with Trixie and Katya with my sister.
Yes,
So that was so fun. We had a little city
date.
a little city date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we went out and we picked up my package. I was supposed to do the Shamrock Shuffle,
Which is like a
5K.
5K. Yeah.
I did not make it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Let's unpack that actually. What is wrong with you?
So
Question number 1.
I have gained a lot of weight since I lost a bunch of. I mean, our listeners that have struggled with their weight all their life will understand. All of a sudden, you get into this kick, you lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, you're great. And then all of a sudden, you lose motivation, and then it's like shot up all the way,
Yeah.
gained all the way back, plus 5 pounds, right? And so that's literally just happened to me. But I forgot that before I lost weight, like at the end of last year, I was having like one of my knees was like really hurting me. Right. And then, well, the whole weight loss thing happened. Like, I got some bad news from the doctor. And then, so I was like really into it. Like, I'm going to be healthy. Oh my God. Like, I'm only eating vegetables and I'm only eating chicken. And I'm going to like have this great blood test back. Right. So, from all the weight that I lost, I guess like the pressure on my knees eased off. Well, that day that we picked up my package for the Shamrock Shuffle, we literally walked around the rest of the day after that. We had to walk to pick up the package because it was in Grant Park downtown. So we had to literally park and walk blocks to get to my package, grab the package, get back to the car, drive to wherever we were going to go to eat. We walked around in Wicker Park for hours. And then we took the car, went and parked and walked to the show. Well, at the end of the night, when we got home, my knee was hurting me so bad. And I was telling you about like, wow, I forgot that I was having knee problems before I lost all the weight. And now this is a sign that I need to lose weight because my knees aren't like, they're not cooperating with me anymore. They're getting a little older. I'm getting a little too heavy. So I'm like, I'm definitely going to have to lose weight. So the next morning I was super excited to go on that run. Really all it was is that have a better than 15-minute pace and finish, and you were going to get a medal. Well, I didn't even make it. So, and I can definitely do like very speedy walking that my pace would be faster than 15 minutes. I've done it before. And so to me, it was no problem, but it was just the whole thing on the day before. I'll try again another time.
Yeah, I was just kidding about like what's wrong with you and having to explain yourself. But thank you for that explanation.
I was
In
gonna.
short,
Well, I'm
yeah.
sure that there's gonna be some of our primos and primas that like identify with that, struggling
Yeah.
with weight, like not being able
That's
to
true.
do some things. You know, it's like
No,
I feel like
it's-
it's a universal experience because tortillas are so delicious. I'm sorry.
It's also very
sorry.
discouraging when it's like when you do gain a little weight and you feel kind of like defeated, so you gain even more weight than that. And it's like,
Yeah.
when does this end?
Yep.
So,
It's just kind of hard, you know, and especially
Yeah.
because, as everybody knows, like I did go back to school, and I know I talk about it to death, but I took over a department at my job, and so it's like I went from like not having so many responsibilities to having a lot of responsibilities, and not any time to like feed my body right. And it's like I'm always definitely on the go. Like I noticed that like by 3 o'clock I haven't eaten anything, and so I eat the quickest thing that I can pick up and just put in my mouth. And it's like, if I have class that night, I know that I need to eat something calorically dense because I'm not going to be able to eat until after 9 p.m. And so it's like to your detriment, because it's like you're so busy you don't have time to sit down and eat something and just fuel your body right. So you pick up like the most calorically dense thing that you can find, a burger, a slice of pizza,
Something
so
fast
it's
and
like,
easy.
yeah, it's something fast and easy, and it ends up being to your detriment, unfortunately. But you know what, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, and we're going to start again.
That's true. That's true.
We're going to do it again.
I
You know
think
what I
that's
mean?
also a factor of it where people notice that there is like weight gain, and then they get discouraged to pick up and try again, I guess.
Yeah,
So it's
but
like the best time to try is today. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I've been doing pretty good, so whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But the
back to the
show,
Trixie and Katya show.
the show that was funny. That was fun. I feel like we haven't gone out to something like that in a while. But yeah, I posted about it on Instagram. I was like, how do I begin to describe what the show was about? If you guys are familiar, sorry, if you guys are not familiar with Trixie and Katya, they are two drag queens that are also comedians.
They're
And
former contestants of Drag Race at some
yeah,
different points of the show seasons. I think they were first on the show, and then they bring them back in like seasons called All Star seasons, where they bring the best back from previous seasons so they can compete again and see. It kind of just really took off for them from there.
yeah, I think
The,
they clicked very well on the
yeah.
show, and they became friends, and they noticed that like, you
Not
know,
only are they very funny, they're very talented and stuff like that. So,
but they also had like they clicked well. Like their banter was very similar, and I think that's sometimes rare, and that's sometimes hard. So it's like it worked out for them because they have a podcast. It's called The Bald and the Beautiful, and it was just them talking and their little comedy
it's just a live
thing.
podcast.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
very
funny.
interesting. We'd seen them previously several years ago. I think, was it 2022
Yeah,
in Grand Prairie, Texas?
Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yeah, we
That was
saw,
fun too.
because that one wasn't The Bald and the Beautiful. It was like a play that they did.
Yeah. Oh, that was
And
funny.
so that it was really, really good. And who was the villain on it? It was
The villain.
yeah, what was her name? What's her name? They even mentioned her on
Kelly
Kelly
Mantle.
Mantle. Yep.
Yep.
That
Oh, I
was the
follow her on
villain.
Instagram after that show, and I was like, "Who is this diva?"
Yeah,
So
she's
she was
funny.
funny.
They always make fun of her. They're like, she's old. And it's like, girl, we're all old at this point. We're all old.
Besides that, before we jump into your case, what else have we been up to? I wanted to mention, we went to Pilsen like a few days ago, and I feel like we haven't been to Pilsen in a while. I think ever since like the ice raid started going, and it's very noticeable of how much that has affected that neighborhood. To those that are not familiar, Pilsen is one of the neighborhoods in Chicago that has a high Mexican population, and you can tell that a lot of the businesses may. I don't want to say that they're struggling, but you can tell that I feel like there's less activity going on. But it was we hadn't been there, for me, I haven't been there since like the Mole Fest a few
Yeah.
years back. But we bought this concha pillow,
Yeah, it's cute.
but we wanted to support local Hispanic and Latino businesses.
The star of the
So-
show has something to say. Would you like to comment something?
Because she's Mexican.
She wasn't getting enough attention, so she had
She
to
jumped on
she had
you.
to let everybody know that she's here.
Yeah.
And that we needed to take a break to pet her. So
Yeah.
But we didn't take a break. We're gonna keep going. And then I also had a birthday.
Oh yeah, your birthday.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. We mentioned it in the last episode. That's why I wasn't sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, just to remind you guys, my birthday was this month, so
Dude, everybody got a birthday this year. That's crazy.
I see that maybe like
Shut up.
over 75% of our Instagram followers have not sent me a gift card in the mail.
What?
So
75%?
I'm just kidding.
So
You
that
guys don't
means
have to send us anything.
25% of you have.
Seriously, the best gift you could give me for my birthday is if you can donate to those links for
That's true.
to help anybody that's been dealing with like these, just a legal fund for people that have dealt with ICE issues. Please
Yeah.
donate there.
If you can. But yeah, should we hop into your case? I'm
Yes.
excited to hear about what you have to share.
Yeah, I'm gonna share about the Tlahuelpuchi. Have you ever heard of this before?
No, kind of. You told me about it, but I'm sure to all of our listeners, it might be a new concept. So
You all have heard about it, but
probably
a
not by
lot of
name.
you, yeah, but just didn't know that that's what it was.
Yeah.
So Tlahuelpuchis are a vampire like bruja that lives in like the Tlaxcala part of Mexico, that they sort of float like balls of fire above cerros or houses and stuff like that. So
So shout out Tlaxcala.
yes. But what's kind of interesting about stories like this is that they're not really isolated, because across different cultures you find similar things that blur the line between witch and vampire.
Yeah.
The Stigini, we've talked about it before, episode 8. It sheds its human form at night and it feeds. Also the Aswang in the Philippines. In Eastern Europe, you have what's called the Strigoi, which is a restless spirit like witch like ghost that also sucks the life out of people. And in Malaysia and Indonesia, you have you're going to have to help me with this. Penanangal,
Okay. Yeah.
Penangalan.
Penanangal. It's kind of similar to the Mananangal in the Philippines.
Yeah. So this is a woman whose head separates from her body and it flies at night in search of blood. These stories developed in completely different parts of the world with no connection to each other, yet they all share the same core idea. Something that appears human, lives among people, and then changes at night to feed on others. That overlap is what makes this, like the Tlahuelpuchi, so interesting to me. A lot of people think that these kinds of stories kind of disappear over time, but they do not. In many communities, especially rural and indigenous ones, the belief can be very much alive. And beyond just being scary stories, they actually tell you a lot about how people used to understand things like illness, death, and even the role of women in a lot of societies.
Correct.
The Tlahuelpuchi is often described as a type of vampire, but it is not exactly the same as what most people imagine. It's more like a combination of a witch, a shapeshifter, and something supernatural tied to older Nahuatl beliefs. The name itself comes from Nahuatl and has been interpreted in different ways, sometimes as luminous smoker, but it is commonly associated with something that feeds on blood. And you're going to see as we kind of go through, I'm going to read some stories and then kind of read some other information from other sources, that this name is like interpreted differently, because luminous smoker, it can also be interpreted as like red hot or like fiery, I think mist or something like that. I'll mention them. So
Okay.
it's like just the translation is different.
So something to do with fire at least.
Yes, it's because it's not direct. It's not a
Okay.
direct translation. It's kind of like they're interpreting it. So what makes this figure unsettling is that it's not some obvious creature. According to the stories, the Tlahuelpuchi lives a normal life during the day. They are part of a family, part of a community. There is nothing that would immediately give them away. The condition is not something they choose either. It is believed to be a kind of curse that begins around puberty. From that
Oh my
point on,
God. Sorry. I'm sorry, but this all seems so similar to like an aswang.
yes, that's why
That's crazy.
I literally brought up, I'm like, this sounds like an aswang.
How did I not catch this in my research when I was doing aswang?
Also, the lady whose head detaches,
Yeah.
same thing. Like around puberty time is when she starts experiencing those, like the bloodlust and stuff like that. It's very
Oh,
interesting.
okay. They're
So
literally cousins.
yeah, where did I leave
So,
off?
sorry, when you mean kind of curse, is it, and you might not know this, so I apologize. Is it genetic?
Yes,
So they are cousins. Oh my God.
yeah. So from that point on, they're said to need blood to survive. Not occasionally, but regularly. If they don't feed at least once a month, they'll die. And the victims are believed and the victims they are believed to target are actually infants, which makes the legend especially disturbing. The
Wow.
stories say that before entering a home, the Tlahuelpuchi performs a kind of ritual. They fly over the house in a cross pattern, moving in different directions as if marking the space. Only after that do they enter. They are also said to have the ability to change form. In some versions, they can separate parts of their body and transform into animals, usually birds. In others, they appear as mist or even as glowing lights moving through the night. There are still people today who claim to see unexplained lights in certain parts that connect them back to these old stories. I think there's a Mexican politician that actually just posted recently in his rancho the balls of fire that fly over his houses in like the mountains. And I can't think
Yeah.
of who that politician is right now, but it's like
No,
a,
that sounds familiar.
a very popular politician. So, um,
AOC.
no, it's a Mexican politician.
No, I was just kidding.
Okay.
I was just kidding. I was like, oh my god, she's at her rancho.
Well, let me see who it was. It wasn't Peña Nieto. Somebody literally just sent
I
us a
believe it,
video.
honestly.
You what?
I believe it.
So we quickly took a little break to see who it was. We looked it up, and it's actually the ex-governor Jaime Rodriguez.
Of
He
Nuevo
was,
León.
yeah, of
Yep.
Nuevo León.
Also known as El Bronco. He shared a video of a rancho near Icamole. And I can say what he dice: raza, me mandaron ese video. ¿Qué se hace en esos casos? Alguien que sepa de esos asuntos, que anda muy cerca del rancho en Icamole, será prudente invitarle unos caguamas. Espero sus consejos. Which basically said, hey guys, I was sent this video. What do I do what does one do in these situations? Anyone know what to do? That it's near a ranch in Icamole. Would it be too soon to invite him for some beers? I wait your advice.
Yes.
That was a very bad translation. Sorry.
It works. So when they attack, the victim does not fight back. It is believed that the Tlahuelpuchi can put them in a deep sleep or trance. After feeding, the only visible sign is usually marks or bruising around the neck. Afterwards, they simply die. They don't seem to recover after.
Wow. So once you're marked or chosen by this creature, like it's kind of a death sentence, because they said that once they select someone, that they fly over their house in a cross pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I know that you said that they mainly feed on infants, but is there like a common thing that they look for, or is it just anybody
Infants.
that's young?
Yeah, anybody that's young, children,
Wow.
infants.
Okay.
Another detail that comes up often in these stories is that there is no way to clearly identify a Tlahuelpuchi unless you catch them in the act. And even then, dealing with one is not simple. There is a belief that if a family is responsible for killing one, the curse does not disappear. Instead, it is passed on to someone else within that same family. Because of this, people develop ways to protect themselves, especially babies. Some of the most common methods involved placing certain objects near where the child sleeps, like garlic, onions, metal objects, or religious items such as crosses and medallions. One very specific practice was placing open scissors near the bed, which was believed to help keep these entities away. And I always heard that it was leaving scissors in the shape of opened in the shape of a cross under the bed, so that when the Tlahuelpuchi or the witch flies over, it stops them. It's like they can't move, like it freezes them. Over time, the name Tlahuelpuchi becomes less commonly used. After colonization, many of these types of figures started being grouped together under the broader idea of witches or brujas. Even though the name changed, many of the behaviors and descriptions stayed very similar. It is
Sorry, one moment. It's kind of interesting how they mention garlic, onions, and religious items along with metal items or metal objects, because it's all the stuff that you usually associate with like
vampires. Yep.
And religious items. If this is something that existed before colonization, would a religious item actually do anything?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is also often compared to the idea of a nahual, since both are associated with transforming into animals. The main difference is that a nahual is believed to learn that ability, while a Tlahuelpuchi is either born into it or cursed. A nahual also does not depend on human blood to survive.
Mm-hmm.
There are other related figures within these same belief systems as well. One example is a figure sometimes described as a woman who could remove her limbs and replace them with wings in order to fly at night. Stories like this show up where there are many different ways people tried to explain supernatural abilities, although a very few of these figures were described as women. Some researchers believe that stories like the Tlahuelpuchi may have been a way for people to make sense of things that people couldn't readily explain at the time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when sudden infant death or accidents that had no clear causes, or without medical explanations, these events were often attributed to a witch, a Tlahuelpuchi, or like el demonio or something.
Yeah. There was always like a supernatural explanation, when in reality it could have just been something medical,
Right.
like sudden infant.
Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Which also, I feel like I read very recently they actually figured out what causes that,
Yeah.
which for a long time they didn't know. They just
Mm-hmm.
knew that some kids got SIDS and they couldn't really do anything to kind of prevent it or fix it.
Yeah. No, I think they were able to isolate at least what could have possibly caused it. I don't want to give out misinformation because I know our listeners call me out, and rightfully so. Thank you for calling me out, because sometimes I will misremember something, but I want to say it had to do with a gene.
Yeah, I think so too. What makes this story stand out is not just the details, but what it represents. It shows how cultures explain the unknown, how beliefs change over time, and how certain figures can be reshaped depending on the context. And even now, these stories have not completely disappeared. In some places, they're still told, still remembered, and sometimes still believed. So when people think about vampires, they usually think of Europe. But stories like this show similar ideas have existed in many different cultures and not just the European versions.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get into the Tlahuelpuchi origin story. And there's several different versions, so I'm gonna go through.
Oh my god, part
So
one.
so this one was specifically from an article that talks about how it happened, and then yeah. So this one kind of talks about how it happened.
Okay.
So they say the origin of the Tlahuelpuchi goes back much further than most people realize. Long before churches, before colonization, back when this land was made up of fields, mountains, and small communities, and when the gods were believed to speak through fire and blood. In those times, blood was not seen as something dark, but as a part of an exchange. It was offered for rain, for harvest, or for balance. Only certain people were allowed to take part in these rituals, usually priests and men of status who were chosen to stand closest to the gods. It said priest, but I kind of understood that it was shamans because this was before colonization. It was pre-Hispanic.
Yeah.
So, but there were also women present, not as leaders, but as observers. They stood in the background, watching, learning, and over time questioning. Some of these women began to wonder why only a few were allowed to hold that kind of power, why the connection to the divine was limited, and why the blood that sustained everything was only handled by certain hands. That curiosity eventually turned into something more. Instead of just watching, they began to seek understanding for themselves. They listened closely, studied what they could, and learned things that were not meant to be shared. Over time, some of them crossed a line. They no longer waited for rituals. They began taking what had once been offered to the gods. At first, it was small, just a few drops. But they claimed that with it came something else: vision, knowledge, a deeper understanding of forces they had only observed before. That's when everything changed. Those in power saw that what they were doing as a threat. The women were labeled as profane, as traitors, or as something dangerous that needed to be stopped. Some were punished, others disappeared, and a few managed to escape, but they did not leave empty-handed. According to the story, they carried something with them, not just knowledge, but something that stayed in their blood. Something that did not disappear, but instead passed down quietly through generations, and eventually that inheritance would awaken. It is said that when a girl reaches a certain age and begins to feel something she cannot explain, a restlessness, a hunger that doesn't go away, that is when the old lineage begins to surface. And from that point on, she is no longer just another person. She's become something else. What people would later come to call a Tlahuelpuchi.
Okay. So this is more treating it like a curse,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. Like they see something that they weren't supposed to, and as such, they have just passed down what stayed in their blood.
Yeah. And I kind of put this out of order, so I'm going to read this next one,
Okay.
right? Because I like this one. So this one's from Nunca Pactes con un Demonio, a YouTube video, Rituales y Brujería Oscura by the channel Historias Embrujadas podcast. And I thought it was so interesting. This is really what sparked the wanting to do the episode about the Tlahuelpuchi.
Okay.
So she's talking about the person that's giving, or like that's telling her story, says this version of the story does not come from anything scientific or historical. It's something that was passed down, something that someone once told, and then continued from person to person. The person who shared it said they heard it from an elderly woman, someone who was nearly 100 years old at the time. According to her, the origin of the Tlahuelpuchi comes from a small town in the state of Mexico. In that town, there was said to be a group of women that people feared. They were not openly called witches, but everyone in the community knew that there was something different about them. They kept to themselves, often clashed with others, and people believed that even making eye contact with them or looking at them in the wrong way would bring misfortune. Over time, the story spread that these women were part of a group that practiced rituals. It was said that they worked together and followed certain rules, performing ceremonies at specific times, under certain conditions, under certain moon phases, at special whatever, like just very specified. During these rituals, they would offer blood in exchange for power, not only their own, but also that of babies, so infants. The belief was that it allowed them to gain knowledge and abilities beyond what was normal. And at some point, according to the story, their ambition grew. They began to believe that they could take more than what they were being given. They thought that during one of their rituals, when the entity they were connected to, which claimed as Belial, came to feed, it was when it became vulnerable at that moment. So it would come down, they would summon it, it would come down, and as it was feeding and giving them powers, they thought it was like there's a brief moment where he becomes vulnerable, and what we need to do is siphon his power and kill him. Destroy this demon. They believed that if they acted at that exact moment, they would be able to take its power for themselves. But they underestimated what they were dealing with. The story says that the entity became aware of their intentions, and instead of losing its power, it reacted. It turned on them and pursued them with fire. The women tried to escape. By that point, they had already gained some of its power and transformed and fled, so they didn't die, but they didn't leave unharmed. The fire actually reached them as they were flying away. It burned them from the waist down. As they fled, people in the town began to see lights moving through the sky, glowing shapes that looked like fireballs. That is when the story of flying lights or fire in the night began to spread. According to this version, what happens next was not punishment, but a curse. They were condemned so that every time they used their power, it would come with pain. It would feel like fire. They would burn. And that condition would not end with them. It would pass on from generation to generation. A lineage marked not only by power, but by the cost of trying to take more than what they were meant to have.
Wow.
Yeah, this was very interesting.
So I looked it up. Belial is an entity in the Bible. No, sorry, in the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament, which became later personified as the devil. In a lot of references, the sons or the men of Belial is anything that comes of wickedness. So I think it was interesting how, like, if this is something that existed before colonization, why are they referencing, like
A Christian God.
biblical? Yeah.
Well, to me, it seems like, I think as that story is being passed down through generations to generations, because it wasn't exactly written down, that I think some of the details changed to fit with the times.
Yeah. No, okay.
So at that,
I get
maybe
that.
at that moment when it happened, it was like a demon, nondescript, maybe like an entity of the darkness, a deity or whatever. But as time went on, and then like kind of Christianity was adapted into like Mexico and Catholicism,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was like this demon kind of fit that description. So then they started calling it the devil or Belial or whatever it is, and so that the story came to be known as like Belial burning them.
Interesting, because it also says that Belial is considered an angel, so not necessarily a demon, but just something that they shouldn't have been messing with, essentially.
I mean, what was
Yeah.
Lucifer but a fallen angel?
No, I'm not arguing. I'm not
I mean,
arguing
what
with
I'm
you.
trying to, I'm
I,
saying, yes,
yeah, I'm adding to
Belial,
it.
it makes sense. Belial is supposedly the
We're
devil.
here.
Well, who's the devil? Like a fallen angel.
I'm holding space for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry. You wanted to hold it a little longer. Okay. Okay.
Imagine our audio listeners
They're
only.
like, what are they doing? What are
What
they
is he
doing?
holding?
He was holding my finger like Cynthia Erivo did to Ariana Grande in that one interview. Yes.
I'm holding space.
All right. So the next one is kind of a story. It's very interesting. It was in an article by worldpress.com, and it's called the Tlahuelpuchi Epidemic. And this one I liked because it talks about like a story that happened to a family, but then it kind of gives their own version of like, this is what a Tlahuelpuchi is, this is what they do. So it was like I found my information for the art for like the top part in a couple of different places, but I liked how like this article was kind of formatted to have like a story and then kind of have like an origin as well, or like what they do.
Hmm.
So the reason why I bring that up is because you might hear some of the information kind of repeated again, but I thought it was very pertinent to leave it in because it's like this is an article from a different person, a Mexican person that wrote this, and I
Hmm.
thought it was very interesting. December 8th, 1960, an unseasonably cold night in San Pedro Solotla, a rural, primarily Nahuatl speaking community beneath La Malintli volcano in the Mexican state of Tlaxcala. Filemon and Francisca, a couple in their early 30s, were working late, carding wool and making yarn. Like most households in the community, they supported themselves with their weaving. They lived in one room of Filemon's parents' extended household with their 4 children, 2 boys and a girl between 5 and 14 years old, and a 7-month-old daughter, Cristina. Around midnight, Filemon's older brother returned from Mexico City, where he had gone to deliver an order of serapes. The three of them had coffee and chatted, then retired for the night. Filemon, exhausted, fell asleep immediately, but Francisca gave baby Cristina one last breastfeeding. Then she put Cristina back on her petate before going to bed herself. 2 or 3 hours later, Francisca awoke and saw an intense light moving around outside the window. She tried to get up to investigate, but her body felt heavy and unresponsive, and she soon fell back asleep. A little later, she awoke, sort of, but she noticed that a strange mist filled the room, and out of it materialized a chicken-like creature, blue and red. Again she tried to get up, but the mist overcame her. That's all she remembered. At 6 a.m., Filemon awoke and noticed that the door to the room was partially opened. Then they saw baby Cristina lying not in her petate but on the floor some yards away. He got up to investigate. Francisca was still fast asleep. It took several minutes for Filemon to wake Francisca from her deep slumber with terrible news. Cristina was dead. The skin around her chest and neck was mottled and purplish, her chest covered in scratches. She had been drained of blood by that shape-shifting vampire known as Tlahuelpuchi. And on that morning of December 9th, 6 other mothers were shaken out of a trance-like sleep to a similar discovery. A still tiny body, sometimes an open door, 7 dead babies. It was a Tlahuelpuchi epidemic. So then it kind of goes into the information. The blood-sucking, shape-shifting Tlahuelpuchi, or that also translated as fiery red smoke. So you see the similarities to before.
Yeah.
Or the Yolkwani, which is the eater of hearts. Looks like an ordinary person and lives in an ordinary family. But she, it's usually a she, must suck human blood at least once a month to survive. She hunts in the form of an animal, usually a turkey or a buzzard. So there's another version. Malinalxochitl, the sorceress sister of Mexico's founding god Huitzilopochtli, was a Tlahuelpuchi. So Tlahuelpuchi is also kind of like a similar witch, but she's thought to remove the hearts and eat them. But
Hmm.
typically, like the other like describing factors are kind of the same.
Okay, so similar habits or
Yeah,
similar origin.
except instead of sucking blood, she eats hearts.
Got it, got it. Everything else is the same.
Yeah. Tlahuelpuchis
Mhm.
prefer the blood of babies between 2 and 10 months old, and they hunt the most in cold or rainy weather. This is why I thought it was very important to leave this in. In Tlaxcalan lore, they strike most often in December, January, and February, the coldest months, and in June, July, and August, the wettest months and also cold. They hunt whenever they are hungry, but prefer to strike between midnight to 3 a.m. To hunt, they fly from village to village as a turkey or a buzzard, or as a flying fireball in the night. They might wander through a village as a donkey, which this is new information. I thought this was very interesting.
Mhm.
They'll shapeshift into another animal and scout the village to see if there's any small children.
Okay.
So,
So this is kind of like where these beliefs, and I might be generalizing, but for example, I always grew up listening to stories about like if there's an animal acting weird by itself, that it might just be like a bruja.
mhm,
And in particular, the most common one is an owl.
yes. So this is like, I was like, I have to leave this in because it's like very interesting that it's like similar, but like different enough to where I thought it was notable to like talk about it as well.
Okay.
Because this is very interesting that like at night they'll turn into a bird, buzzard, turkey, or whatever it is, but during the day they actually scout. And I'm like, that's kind of terrifying
Yeah.
that they scout it out as like a weird fucking animal during the day, and then they come back to the houses that they noticed had small children.
Hmm.
So you can tell if an animal is a Tlahuelpuchi by its glowing aura and the faint smell of blood. So this animal is said to faintly glow and the smell of blood. And kind of what I understood by like faintly glow is like maybe not necessarily a glow, but you're like you get a vibe. Like
His
that
aura
animal is
forming.
fucking weird. Like why is that dog over there like it you feel like it wants to hurt you.
Like there's something about it that draws you to look
Yes,
at it.
like
Or
you're like this is not normal.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's aura forming.
So after a Tlahuelpuchi picks a victim, she waits outside for a good opportunity to sneak inside the house. Some people say that to enter the house, the Tlahuelpuchi, repeated information,
Hmm.
must fly over the roof in the shape of a cross, first east to west, then north to south, just like I mentioned earlier. Others say that she can sneak into a keyhole or other small openings as an insect, or as a paralyzing mist that knocks out everyone in the room. Which this I thought was very interesting because vampires also turn into mist.
Yeah,
So,
that seems so specific. They're like, she has to fly from east to west, north to south. She gets so skinny like a little bug, and she flies inside. Like,
yeah. Once inside, she turns back into a turkey and sucks her victim's blood with her long needle like tongue. When she escapes, she leaves the victim's body by the door. The position of the body, along with the purple mottled bruises around the victim's chest, upper back, or neck, are signs of a Tlahuelpuchi attack.
dude,
You,
these are all like the stuff you hear growing up about like what witches do.
yep,
Like brujas growing up, like the stuff that they do is all of this. Like the needle like tongue, like even like, aswang, like that's literally all the stuff that they do.
mm-hmm,
This is crazy.
yep,
And like I feel like, well, you were kind of saying like a lot of it is repeated information in this episode, but I feel like we have discussed brujas. Like I remember you covered witches like years ago.
yeah,
Um, but we've kind of every time we mention witches, there's always a mention of like these habits that they have. And then this is all it.
yep. So, this person that wrote this article also states you can try to protect yourself or your baby from the Tlahuelpuchi. Leave a sharp object under the crib, a knife, scissors, needles, or pins. Make a cross out of safety pins on your garments. Put a mirror or dirty shorts or a soiled diaper near the bed. But none of these are foolproof. Only onions or garlic are guaranteed to ward off an attack. You can wrap them in a tortilla and stick them into blankets or clothing, but no one does this except in times of crisis. It's too much trouble, they say. And
Wow.
because sometimes this is like they're poorer communities, so they
Mm-hmm.
need to eat those items.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you don't have garlic to spare to just be preventative, I guess. Like you need it for food
Yep.
first. That makes sense. That is really interesting. And again, it's like repeating the stuff that we kind of grew up listening to about like the stuff that prevents vampires from attacking, or like the scissors thing. I don't know. Like all of this is like stuff we've already like heard growing up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy.
Yeah. So I think the last thing I have is a story that I found from a YouTube video, El ataque de la terrorífica Tlahuelpuchi, Espejo Negro, by Ramón Valdés Elizondo.
Okay.
So the story starts. My name is Uriel Enciso. I am from Mexico City. I am a simple man who met the woman of his dreams, Angelica. She made me the happiest man in the world when she agreed to marry me. We built a beautiful family together. She gave me my first son, Salvador, and although I love him with everything I have, I had always dreamed of having a daughter. We kept trying, hoping for that, and eventually we were lucky. On the second pregnancy, our daughter was born, Deborah, my little angel. That is what I always called her. I think everything started after she was born. We decided to move to San Pablo del Monte, Angelica's hometown, because of a job opportunity. We wanted to build a better future for our children. At first, everything was going well. We were stable financially, living a modest but comfortable life. Since both of us worked, we hired a nanny to take care of Salvador and Deborah. Even though Angelica was supposed to rest after giving birth, she loved her work just as much as I did, and we were focused on providing for our family. But that calm didn't last. The first night something happened, Angelica and I were asleep. The children's room was right next to ours. Suddenly we were awoken by a loud scream. Dad, come! Dad, there's someone here! Salvador was yelling. I got up immediately, thinking someone had broke in. I ran to their room, but there was no one there, just my children, terrified. Salvador was crying and told me she was here, standing in front of Deborah's crib. She wanted to take her. She was looking at her and laughing. He said he saw her face, but he could not scream. He felt frozen. I thought he had just had a nightmare. We calmed him down as best we could. Angelica comforted the baby, and after a while, Salvador fell asleep from exhaustion. We went back to bed, telling ourselves it was just night terrors, something we'd both experienced as children, but it didn't stop there. Every few days, Salvador would wake up screaming again. He kept saying that something was trying to take his sister. Each time he became more desperate because he felt like we didn't believe him. He would describe what he saw. A shadow with white eyes on the ceiling above the crib, the room filling with a kind of vapor that smelled like something dead. A large bird standing on the crib with a long tongue reaching towards Deborah. At first, I thought maybe something he saw on television was affecting him, so we stopped letting him watch anything that would scare him, but nothing changed. One day, our neighbor Doña Cuca overheard us talking about what was happening. She interrupted us quietly and said a word I had never heard before. Tlahuelpuchi. When I asked her what that was, she brushed it off, saying it was just a local superstition, but she still gave us advice. She told us to place open scissors under the crib and to get protective charms for the baby. I was willing to try anything, so I did, but it didn't help. Deborah started getting sick. She began losing weight. Her skin became pale. She slept during the day and cried at night, waking Salvador, who would start to scream again, saying it was there. Doña Cuca gave us more things to try. Salt at the doors and windows, spiritual cleansings, placing a mirror near the crib. Nothing worked. Then one night it was no longer in the children's room, it was in ours. I felt someone sit at the edge of the bed. Then I felt arms wrapped around me from behind. I thought it was my wife, but at that exact moment, Angelica walked into the room. I froze. I jumped out of bed and pulled the blankets off, but there was no one there. I dropped to the floor, shaking and crying, asking what was happening in our home. Angelica tried to stay calm, but I could see fear in her eyes. We both knew something was wrong, and we weren't the only ones. Around that time, there were reports in the town. Several babies had suddenly died in their cribs. People called it sudden infant death, but in less than a month, more than 10 babies had died. It felt like way too much of a coincidence. Deborah continued to get worse. She developed bruises on her body. She became weaker and thinner. We took her to different doctors, but they all said the same thing: malnutrition. They gave us treatments, medication, and instructions, but nothing seemed to help. We knew this wasn't normal. Then one night, I saw it. Everything was quiet, no crying, no noise. I got up to get a glass of water and noticed the light in the children's room was still on. As I got closer, I saw something coming down from the ceiling. A figure. It slowly descended into the center of the room. It was standing in front of Deborah's crib. She turned her head and looked directly at me. Her mouth was open, her eyes had no pupils. Her face looked distorted, almost like a bird, and from her mouth came a long dark tongue that connected to my daughter's body. It only lasted a few seconds. She looked at me and made a gesture that felt like a smile, but it was empty. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Sweet dreams," and then she disappeared, turning into a kind of mist. At the same time, Salvador started screaming again as if something had taken control of him. That was the last night. My daughter didn't survive. She died later that day. To this day, I still don't understand what happened. My wife and I are completely broken. Salvador has not spoken since that night. The doctors say it's psychological, but he chose to stop speaking. And now after telling you all of this, I have to ask, do you still believe my daughter died because of us? Or are you finally going to accept that something else is out there?
Whoa. Okay. Whoa.
That was
That was
scary.
crazy. Is that a real story?
It's a real story.
Jesus, man.
In the YouTube video,
sad.
he submitted the story to the person reading the story, and he's like, "This is my story." And at the very end, he's like, "I didn't want to believe, but I don't feel like we did anything to my daughter. We weren't the reason she had malnutrition. It
Yeah.
was this thing that came and ate her. Don't you believe? Like, after hearing my story, don't you believe us?"
Wow. That's
Yeah,
so
I was
sad.
like, "That's wild." So, but that's all I have for Tlahuelpuchi.
Thank you for sharing. That was a lot. Honestly, it's a little weird how that one neighbor, Doña Cuca, was like, "Oh, it was Tlahuelpuchi," and he's like, "What is that?" And she's like,
Girl,
"Oh,
don't
it's
worry
just
about it.
don't worry about it. It's a local superstition." Then why would you bring it up? You're the one that brought it up, girl.
Well, also he's recounting a story, and how many times when we recount a story do we like talk about the parts that are
Yeah.
important to us, but we kind of seem to ignore the other parts.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, it's she didn't really explain to me, but it's like, oh, she literally sat there for 5 minutes. You just weren't paying attention.
That's true. That's true.
So this is a story from his point of view, and
Mhm.
I mean, I would say that like we don't know what really happened. So I don't know. That was it.
Damn, that's sad. But this is kind of like what I was saying before. This is all the stuff that you hear growing up about like brujas and
Mhm.
like what they do. Like they become balls of fire. Do you know why they become balls of fire and float around in the monte?
They're using their powers and they're hunting.
For children in the mountains?
Well, also you have to think about that they're witches. So these
Okay.
witches do their aquelarres or their like spells.
Okay.
So they get together, they do their rituals, or I guess aquelarre is closer to like ritual.
Mhm.
So they do their rituals at night. So I mean, they could be just meeting and doing a ritual or whatever it is that they're doing. So or hunting, looking for somewhere to hunt.
Yeah. Well, that was good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I had fun doing the research for that. We had kind of talked about them before,
Mhm.
but I didn't actually know that there was a separate entity from a regular bruja called the Tlahuelpuchi.
Yeah.
All right, so if we're ready to move on, I have some. First, I wanted to bring up,
Mhm.
what irrational fears did you have as a child? We talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but now I want to know what you guys talked. I
Yeah.
said that I was afraid of sharks in my pool,
Mhm.
and I was afraid of the shrink ray and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What irrational fears did you
Yeah.
have?
I mean, I was scared about the sun expanding in a million years or something.
I meant you as in
No, I
our
know.
primos
I
and
know. I'm
primas.
just adding to it. I'm just adding to it.
You
Yeah.
afraid of the sun
So
exploding.
any one of our listeners, let us know like what irrational fears you had.
And we are going to talk. I'm going to put them on a spreadsheet, and we're going to talk about them in a future episode. So
And
I
then
really
we will
want to know.
agree if it is scary or not. No, I'm
We're
just
not.
kidding.
You know what? We're not here to
And we're
judge
gonna
other
judge
people's
you.
fears. We're just going to talk about them to see if anybody else can relate. Because what's more
Yeah.
fun, being able to relate to somebody about being afraid of something?
Yeah. No, I will put myself in a mental state of a child and be like, would I be scared as a child?
Yeah.
Which reminds me, Victorian era children.
Wait, I'm going to do the podcast pets.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
We'll put a pin on that.
Pin. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So podcast pets. A few of you have sent us the pets. Our prima Liz sent us a picture of my cousin Jaime. So at first, I didn't put two and two together. So I'm like, Lisette. And then like her last name. And I was like, okay, cute. And I opened it. I was like, this is my cousin. I was like, wait a minute. It's Liz. I'm like, of course it's my cousin. But she sent us a picture of her cat Chucky, like Chucky Lozano. And he's growing, and now she says that like as he's growing, he's kind of like a mix of Chucky the doll and Stitch because he's wild, he's crazy. He likes to pretend to bite Jaime when he's not getting enough attention, and he also sits on his head.
Oh, he's that tiny then.
Yes. Next, our prima Daniela sent us her border collie Chihuahua mix Jasper. He was a very clingy boy that even followed her to the restroom with a cute white heart mark on his forehead. So it's like he had like this like white line that would go up his snout up to his forehead, and then it like kind of like went into like a little heart point here. It was very cute.
Oh.
But unfortunately he passed away about a year ago. So I'm very sorry, Prima, and our heart goes out to you because we know it's very upsetting to lose a pet. Next, our prima Maria sent us a little orange cat named Chetarini. He was pulled from a hoarding home with 26 other dogs.
Oh my god.
So, and she's fostering him right now. I didn't notice, but like some of our, she sent us a message at the beginning of the month asking if we could talk about this cat because he's available for adoption. This was at the beginning of March though, so I don't know if he's still available. I sent her a message and have not heard anything back, but by the next time we record, if I hear something back, we'll talk about it again in the next episode. Stephanie J sent us a beautiful picture with all her pets in it. She has two cats, Kiwi and Appa, some doggies, Maxie and Rosie, Uzi, and the newest addition, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio.
The full legal name.
The full legal name.
Everyone else has like little tiny little names.
Which I thought was kind of funny because then afterwards, somebody on the Instagram, burnt ramens _ sent us their cat, Cookie Sheila Hernandez.
Oh my god.
So I'm like, that's kind of a cute name, Cookie Sheila. I'm like, I kind of wonder,
Sheila.
like, Cookie Sheila. I wonder what the story is behind that. But Cookie is, Burnt Ramen said this. I didn't say this. Cookie is the size of a small house, and they also refer to the cat as an M1 Abrams tank. I think she's big and beautiful.
Wait, what is that?
M1 Abrams tank. It's like a military tank. Like when you think about a military tank. And when I looked at the pictures, I wouldn't say she's too big, but she's a sturdy girl. She's definitely a sturdy girl.
That is such a backhanded compliment. Like,
No.
a sturdy girl.
I mean, I don't.
Imagine getting that as a person.
It's like.
That would ruin me. Cookie. That's such a cute name, too.
I actually got that from. There was a comedy called, I think, like. Something Gems. And in one of the episodes, the wife calls a lady like, you sturdy bitch. I thought it was hilarious. So, but anyways.
Well, thank you for sharing those.
Yes, thank you for sharing your pets. Thank you so much for sending them in.
I wanted to ask, like, Appa Yip Yip, like.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
Appa Yip Yip.
Yep.
Okay.
And what happens when you say yip yip to Appa? Your Appa, not the cartoon Appa.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Was that all the pets?
That's all the pets, yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to a Victorian child. We're gonna name other things that what would kill a Victorian child?
So actually,
Okay.
our prima Alice sent some suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
She said that a Victorian child could not handle McDonald's Sprite,
Yeah.
Sunny D, Tostilocos, and also Red 40.
Red 40. I see that. I see that. And a McDonald's Sprite, absolutely. But a McDonald's Sprite is like it's a very potent concoction, honestly.
Honestly, you know what it tastes like to me?
What?
How it feels to chew 5 gum.
Nobody clapped and nobody cheered. Girl.
I love those old ass commercials of
Ew.
5 gum, but I
I'm a big hater.
I messaged our prima back, and I was like, bro, I think that like Sunny D would actually make this Victorian child really strong because it would cure their scurvy.
Absolutely.
Did Victorian children have scurvy? I don't know, but I'm just gonna assume they did.
I would say that a McDonald's Sprite would also heal them. Like plus 30 HP, honestly. Because when you're ever sick, like I will drive.
Where is this going?
Wait, they said this on a Smosh video.
Mhm.
They're like I would drive, like if I'm sick, I would drive to a McDonald's for a Sprite before I go to a doctor, and I agreed.
I feel like, you know what? That like
I agreed with that.
when I drink a McDonald's Sprite when I'm sick, I feel like it's burning the virus and bacteria on the inside.
Yeah,
The rest of my insides too, but like the bad stuff is dying too, and that's what's important.
it's like when you drink it, it's like
Allegedly, I don't want to get sued by Coca-Cola.
tasting. Oh my god, it's like drinking a part of the sky.
A part of
that
the sky
make
when it's hailing.
When it's like really cold. Ugh, I just typed really red when I said that. Sorry guys, I'm embarrassed.
I get it because sometimes when I drink that Sprite from McDonald's, I'm
Yeah, exactly.
like I gotta.
But like when it's like a gray winter morning and the sky looks like that, that's what it feels like. Like if you're like, oh, if I could drink it, McDonald's Sprite. I'm losing you. I feel like I'm losing you.
A little bit.
We can move on.
Because I would say that it would have to be hailing too. It just reminds me of the little fizzing popping in your neck when you drink
And
it.
you think hail fuzzes and pops?
I mean, when you fucking walk under it, that shit pelts you.
Oh my god, it was hailing the other day, and I was thinking like, does it hurt?
Yes.
You've been hailed on?
Yes.
And does it
It's
hurt?
like getting a rock thrown at you.
Oh my god. Some of those
You
hail.
stayed inside a lot as a child, huh? You didn't never had a rock
Yes.
thrown at you.
I would never do that.
It sucks.
Tragic.
Yeah. I thought it was I don't know if we talked about this before, but I thought it was so interesting when I was looking through your palate cleansers and I typed this out, and it's before ultrasounds, having a baby was like opening a blind box.
That wasn't supposed to be on that list. That was just one of my thoughts.
That was just a thought. And
Literally, yeah.
And you know what? Like, I remember that even growing up as a kid, like, they're like, oh, it's going to be a girl. Your stomach is hanging a certain way. It's hanging too low or it's hanging higher. And by the way that your stomach hang, people would be like, oh, it's going to be a boy or girl. Or like, there was one time where I heard one lady telling another lady to put these chemicals in like a cup and then pee in the cup. And if the pee turned blue, it was a boy. And if it turned yellow and fizzed, it was a girl. Just very random ways to tell if the gender of the baby. Like, it was just very interesting.
Interesting. No, there was always like those weird, I don't want to say old wives' tales. Would that be considered an old wives' tales?
I think so.
When they'd be like, oh, you have a lot of acid reflux, that means it's a boy.
I would consider that an old wives' tale.
When they're like, you have a lot of acid reflux, and that means it's gonna be a boy, and he's gonna be born with a full full head of hair.
Look at what I just did. I typed in wives' tales, and it says for gender. It was the first option.
Click on it. Let me see what it says. I'm not looking at AI. Sorry.
No morning sickness. It's a boy. It's a girl if you're having nausea.
Oh my god.
A heart rate of 140 beats per minute means it's a girl. Lower for a boy. If you crave salty foods, it's a boy. Sweet, it's a girl. If dad gains weight, it's a girl. If his weight stays the same, it's a boy. It's a girl if you get acne due to increased levels of female charge hormones. A girl steals their mother's beauty.
Oh my god. The baby's not even born, or the girl's not even born, and they're already like pushing these gender stereotypes on her.
If you've got dry hands, it's a boy. If the linea whoa. If the linea nigra stops at the belly button, it's a girl. If the linea nigra goes all the way to the bottom of the rib cage, it's a boy.
Oh, is that the little line that grows on the belly?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my god.
More,
Dude, I'm sorry, these are crazy.
yeah, more hair on your legs than normal. It's a boy. It's the testosterone inside of you.
Jesus, man. I mean, some of them, when they're related to hormones, I get it. But some of them, I'm like, what? What do
These
you mean
make
your
no
hands
sense.
are dry?
Yeah,
What do you mean the father gains weight? That one is crazy.
that's wild.
Like,
Anyways,
what does he have to do with anything?
so that's why I was like, let's talk about this because there's some interesting stuff here to talk about. I see an item here
Okay.
that references mini golf. Will you enlighten us on what this item is?
Okay, so our friend Jorge invited us to his...
Hi, Jorge.
Hi, Jorge. He invited us to a mini golf thing for his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a while back, but so this has been on here for a while. Probably like a little more over a month. However, it's a bad idea to invite me with anything competitive related because I get very competitive.
Yeah, you're just competitive in general.
We were playing mini golf and it was like an indoor style where everything is tracked on the ball. So it's like you have to keep track of your ball and it'll count the number of times that like you hit the ball.
Which was very interesting.
Yeah. It made scoring very easily. Keeping score very
Yeah.
easily. But I was very competitive, dude. I would get like a low, or obviously in golf the less swings the better. Girl, I was fighting for my life, dude. I would try to be so like what's the word?
Nonchalant.
Nonchalant, but I want to be like a good, good sportsmanship or whatever.
Yeah, good sport.
And someone would get a better score than me, and I would just be like,
I would see you, and then
you'd be like,
on the next hole, they would get one too many, and you'd be like,
dude, I would get crazy when I would get like a hole in one and they would get like 4. I'd be like, yo, that's so crazy.
it's wild.
I'd be like, wow, that must suck. Why am I like
Yeah.
this?
I don't know. Remember the day that I was trying to explain to your parents how competitive you were too?
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm not competitive at all.
Dude, the worst part about it is at the end, our friend Kelly's friend, she got first place. I got third, and she's like, "Oh, third place isn't bad." I almost fell to my knees and threw up. Like,
It was bad.
just don't invite me to anything competitive. I don't know how to
No.
control myself. But
What was it like the last time you played a game at your cousin's house and she's like, "Why are you getting red?"
oh my god, we were playing. Some people call it like chameleon. It was for Thanksgiving, and the point of it is that on a phone you put the number of players and then you pass the phone around, and it'll tell you a word, or it'll say like, "Hey, you are the imposter." And basically everyone goes around and says something referencing that. So for example, if you get,
But trying not to be too specific because then
Yes.
you're going to give it away to the person that got the imposter.
Everyone's job-
They're not told what the item is that we're talking about.
correct. So everyone has to give clues and figure out who of the people there are the imposter and then point them out. The imposter's job is to try to blend in to put the blame on somebody else. So for example, I don't know, like if it's eggs or something, someone says
Chicken.
breakfast, and the imposter is like, okay, well, what do these things have in common? Like you're
It's
supposed
like,
to kind of
it's probably eggs, chicken. So you don't want to be that specific.
correct. And I wasn't doing too hot. And
Yeah.
my cousin was like, he's gonna get mad. He used to get mad when we were younger, and I was like,
And he's like,
Because I think it was like the first Thanksgiving we had like with you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm trying to be, the same nonchalant. I'm trying to be chill. I'm trying to have
And
fun.
he was like, I'm not gonna get mad. I'm
Did
not mad.
What's wrong with me?
Don't know.
I'm just trying
I
to have a
don't
good
know.
time.
But I think it's so funny because it's like I can see you screaming internally.
I'm trying to be so chill.
I don't even remember how that conversation came up too with your dad, where
Yeah.
your dad was like, "Is he competitive?" Because he used to be competitive as a child, and I'm like, "Oh boy, this guy stinks." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "If I'm right about something, like." And I gave your dad the example, like we'll be like, we're like, oh, okay, this conversation's over. Like I was right about this. Like I think it's done. Then all of a sudden, we're both going down the stairs to go downstairs, and you're like, "I got downstairs first, so I won." It's like
I will find the
I
competition.
didn't even know we were competing,
Even
and he thought it was so funny. He laughed, and he's like,
Yeah.
"That doesn't surprise me."
Yeah.
Even your parents know how you are.
I'm just competitive. Even if there's no competition, I will find it. And I will be number one. And I will win.
Jeez, does anybody have a cousin like this? It's
The
probably
type of cousin that you have to like.
it's the one your parents always compared you to.
Yikes. No, not me. No, if anything, that my aunt and uncle would be like, don't be like him. He's crazy.
He's too competitive.
He's too competitive. Oh, don't even get me started like Mario Kart. Mario Party. Oh my God, Mario Party. It would ruin I would ruin the mood.
Oh my
If I
gosh.
lost, I would ruin the mood.
You would yell like that little boy that's like, "Quien se comió mi torta" in front of the fridge, except you would be like, "Why? I won. You cheated."
No, that was just across the board. Everyone. If my cousins and I were playing Mario Party and they didn't win, everyone would just accuse each other of cheating. Like we
Yeah.
were not.
No,
Good
you cheated. No.
Good. We did not have good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm a victim too. I
Love that.
I was a victim of my environment. It was a learned behavior, guys.
Wow.
Anyway, moving on.
I think that's good.
We had just one
I
more.
think that's okay.
So there's a new movie coming out soon called Exit Number 8. That's coming out on April 10th, and I'm really, really excited. And I really wish Andres would take me to go see it when it comes out.
Well,
Let's hope.
maybe as a late birthday gift, somebody can take me to go watch that movie.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend it because even though I haven't seen it, it's based on the game Exit 8. I'm sure I've seen it on TikTok several times, people streaming
I
it.
don't even know what this is.
Really?
I don't. Maybe I'm just too old.
Okay, so it's based on a Japanese game.
Mhm.
I'll give a quick summary. It's based on a Japanese game where you are a character in a subway and you go down a hall and then you turn left and then you turn
okay.
right.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's like the exact same thing. However, if it looks the exact same, you continue. And the point is to go through it 8 times. If you go down a hall and you notice that something is different, you immediately have to turn around and go the other way. And when you go the other way, it's the same hallway. In Japanese, it's called Hachiban Deguchi. And it's kind of, I guess it would consider horror. It's considered a horror game.
You have to make a split decision when you're walking down the hallway. You have to make a split decision. If something is different, you have to notice it immediately, because if not, like whatever entity is in that hallway will kill you.
Yeah.
So you have to turn around really fast and run the other way.
So I'm really looking forward to the movie because I really liked watching people play the game. And
That is one game that kind of scares me when I'm watching it because of the jump scare.
true. But yeah, that is all I had. I guess we will. Oh my God, what happened? Oh, I got the outro. Sorry.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. As usual, we like to upload twice a month, somewhere on the 15th and somewhere on the 31st.
On
So
a
halfway.
semi-regularly schedule.
Exactly. We're on a semi monthly.
Okay, but last time I blame it on the doll stories that we were telling.
Oh my god. Okay, one last story then. So last episode we talked about haunted dolls. In case you are new here, we had talked about haunted dolls, and there was an issue with the audio. And there were literally times when I tried to clean it up as best as I could, but there was some parts where like the sound would start buzzing for some reason, or it would sound like we were like an underwater, or like there was an echo sometimes. Um, so I'll blame it on that.
Yikes.
Hopefully that doesn't happen in this time for
Yeah.
this episode. But again, thanks for listening. We upload twice a month. So next month it will be around April 15th. So please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Get Spooky Podcast. You're also welcome to email us any story suggestions or your own scary stories at getspookypodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us your pictures of your pets through that email as well. Again, that is getspookypodcast@gmail.com. It'll be in the episode description. Special thanks to Taylor Turner for the artwork, Kyle Fields for the intro music, and Leonardo for the logo redesign. And don't forget to tell someone you love how much they mean to you.
Bye-bye.
And don't get too competitive.
Too
Bye.
late. Bye.